Hello and welcome to TradeFlow Television,
bringing you valuable analysis and actionable intelligence
through the global commodity markets.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
China has bought roughly 200 million gallons of U.S. ethanol for the first half of 2021, matching its previous record for annual imports of the corn-based biofuel, Archer Daniels Midland Co-Chief Financial Officer Ray Young said on Tuesday. The accelerated imports are among several positive signs for the ethanol sector, which has been hard hit by years of oversupply and, more recently, a sharp drop in demand as the coronavirus pandemic slashed fuel use. Imports of 200 million gallons would eclipse China's previous annual record of 198.1 million gallons in 2016, according to U.S. Census Bureau trade data.
U.S. soy processors, fresh off the busiest year on record, have booked soybean purchases well beyond the normal few weeks of supply due to soaring export demand, rising prices and fears of soy shortages later this season, traders and analysts said. The aggressive buying foreshadows an expected battle for beans between exporters and processors this spring and summer that will likely increase prices further and could result in rare imports to the United States, the world's number 2 soybean producer and exporter. At least one processor in the eastern Midwest has already booked its soybean needs through May, the most in the history of the company, a soybean merchant said, asking not to be named.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
A U.S. appeals court dealt a blow to the Dakota Access crude oil pipeline on Tuesday, upholding a lower court's decision to throw out a key federal permit and order a lengthy environmental review that will determine if the pipeline can keep operating. The decision is the latest in a series of legal and regulatory setbacks for the U.S. energy industry. In the last week, regulators denied permits to notable natural gas pipelines, while the new Biden administration effectively killed the Keystone XL pipeline project and is soon expected to limit oil and gas drilling on federal lands. The line is the primary artery for delivering crude from North Dakota's Bakken Field, the second largest shale development in the country, where more than 1 million barrels of oil is produced every day.
Iranian oil exports are climbing in January after a boost in the fourth quarter despite U.S. sanctions, 3 assessments showed, in a sign that the end of Donald Trump's term as U.S. president may be changing buyer behavior. Iran's exports have shrunk since Trump in 2018 withdrew the United States from a nuclear deal with Iran and reimposed sanctions. New President Joe Biden has said if Tehran resumed compliance with the deal, Washington would too. Figures from SVB International and 2 other firms that estimate Iranian supply by tracking tankers indicated exports are rising. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Over 400 companies across some of the world's biggest greenhouse gas-emitting industries, from shipping to steelmaking, have agreed to work together on plans to decarbonize by 2050, according to a coalition of climate advocacy groups that set up the partnership. The agreement, to be announced at the virtual Davos World Economic Forum on Wednesday, includes giants like miner ArcelorMittal, shipper Maersk, and oil behemoth Shell. It is intended to complement rising international ambition to make the aggressive emissions cuts scientists say are necessary to avoid the worst effects of climate change. Companies in the agreement represent 7 global industries: steel, cement, chemicals, aluminum, shipping, aviation, and trucking, that together account for nearly 1/3 of the world's greenhouse gas emissions.
Zinc prices slumped on Wednesday to the lowest in more than 2 months on a sharp rise in inventories that highlighted excess supply as demand falters in China. Benchmark 3-month zinc on the London Metal Exchange fell 1.8% to $2,608.50 a ton in official trading, its lowest since November 13. Stocks in LME-registered warehouses have soared by 57% over the past 2 days to the highest levels since June 2017. The sharp rise in inventories was likely the result of existing stocks moving into LME warehouses to take advantage of financial deals, said Citi analyst Oliver Nugent.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Iraq's state grains buyer has issued an international tender to buy at least 30,000 tons of rice, European traders said on Wednesday. The closing date for the tender is February 3. Price offers must remain valid up to February 10, they said. The rice can be sourced from any origin worldwide. No international rice tenders from Iraq were reported in 2020.
Finally, we have the most recent news on the financial market. Insurers are facing a $2-3 billion loss if the Tokyo Olympics are cancelled this year, amounting to the largest ever claim in the global event cancellation market, brokers say. With less than 6 months until the games are due to start, the competition will top the agenda when the International Olympic Committee's (IOC) executive board meets this week. The Olympic body, which will meet remotely, finds itself in a similar situation to March last year, when it postponed the games by 12 months as the COVID-19 pandemic shut down sport worldwide. Much of Japan is now under a state of emergency due to a third wave of COVID-19 infections.
That is all for today's news on the commodity market. Stay tuned to TradeFlow TV as we continue to provide you with more updates. You can also follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow TV1, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop.